little intro to TinkerCAD video that I've done. First one was just a little bit about the interface, so if you want to know a little bit more about the interface, by all means go back and look at that. Okay, so the very basics of the way TinkerCAD works is they've got these, what they call shapes. They're actually three-dimensional forms, but let's not get hung up on that. We've got these sort of positive shapes and negative shapes. So that's the very basics of what you need to learn. Now, before I get into showing you what they are, how they work, etc., a couple of things. Firstly, if you're on a laptop, get a mouse. It makes this so much easier. With a mouse, we can zoom with a roller, and if you click and hold your roller, you can pan. You can't do that with a trackpad very easily. So a mouse, 1,000 times easier. If you're on an iPad, use an Apple Pencil. It makes life way better. All right, so I've gone and dragged a positive shape and a negative shape in, both 20 by 20 by 20 cubes. And if I just click on the top view for a sec, so also you'll note that I'm looking at it very flat on. That's because I've gone and clicked the orthographic view. If I look at it in the perspective view, you can now see that there's dimension to it, which makes it a little bit harder to look at. So basically speaking, if I overlap these two forms, you can see sort of what that looks like now. I can go and select both of those. Now I need to hold Shift to select both of them. If you're on an iPad, you just click them, just tap them to select them, but on a laptop, you are holding Shift to select them both, and then you want this function here. Now, TinkerCAD calls it group. I prefer to think of it as maybe join or intersect or something, but we group it like that, and you can see the result of that negative shape that it has cut the chunk out, okay? Similarly, we can bring in another positive, if you like, and we can overlap them, and hopefully you might be able to predict what's going to happen with these when we select them both and group them. We now have one solid form. Now, you can do some different things. So if you've got an object that has been grouped, you can ungroup them, so they're no longer like that. You can also, so if we take this cylinder, you can see that we've got all these faces on it. You can increase the number, which kind of makes it a little bit smoother. Don't know why they default to such a chunky version. And you can also, say, select these. I'll group these together. I might bring in this one, and you might decide for whatever reason that this object now needs to become a cut shape, okay? So what they call a hole. So I've just created that into a cut shape, and now it has cut that obscure sort of shape out of our block. Okay, let's say you've gone and created, an obscure shape like this. You might want to replicate that or hollow it out. So a great way to do that, select the object, and then over here we've got this duplicate function, and now we've got two of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to convert that into a hole shape, and then with one of my anchor points on the corner, if I hold Shift, it will actually shrink it down proportionately. Now that's pretty handy to know, because if you don't do it proportionately, it's going to kind of make everything a bit skew. So you notice there that I've flicked over to my back view here, and everything is now looking flat, two-dimensional. That makes it a lot easier to manipulate the position of things. So to take the height, you might have seen that I grabbed this arrow here, and I can change the height of the object, and now I can change the direction that it's in here, but I can't move it back and forth towards me or away from me. To do that, I need to go onto my top view and move it like this, and I'm going to this isn't a fantastic example because of the obscure nature of the shape, but it'll work for the sake of what I'm showing you. And then I can select them both and cut that chunk out, and it's now like I've shelled the object. That would work much better if it was just a square or a cylinder or something, maybe a cone, something like that. But yeah, you can do that. Now, one of the kind of cool things about TinkerCAD is that stuff is not designed to be done super accurately. You notice, like, in comparison to let's say Fusion, when you're modeling something in Fusion, it actually sort of insists that you specify the size of it as you're working, whereas TinkerCAD doesn't do that. However, if we click on the node here, we can now change this to 25 millimeters. We can change this to 30 millimeters, whatever the case may be, and the height, etc. So that's a really easy way of doing it. Or you can just sort of wind that down until you get to the right number that you want. We can change how accurate it is by, going 0.1 of a millimeter, 0.5 of a millimeter, or turn it off altogether. That's quite handy to use, the snap to grid. So don't be afraid to sort of have a play around with different things. This will probably work a little bit nicer. If I go maybe on the bottom view, it might allow me to position it a little bit better. I probably need a half movement here, but then I can say stretch it out if I want, or I might just undo those, select that, and then it's kind of like I've shelled it, which is kind of cool. We can spin this around. Again, you want to do stuff sort of accurately, so make sure you're doing it to the degrees and things like that. So yeah, all that stuff is pretty cool to be able to do. We might leave that one there, and I might see if I can think of some other features that you can have a little bit of a play around with in TinkerCAD. Good luck.